Hello and welcome. My name is Andrew, and this is the Who Dat Discussion, a New Orleans Saints podcast where we talk about all Saints news, reactions, and opinions. So first, I wanted to say to everyone, because when this podcast goes out, it's 4th of July, so I just wanted to say Happy 4th to everyone out there, and God bless America. So, I just want to start off by saying, I thank you for everyone for watching last week's episode. We got over 231 views on YouTube and another 236 views on Podomatic. And just other things, we're trying to get the podcast on Google Play as well and iTunes. And I'm just so excited that our podcast has grown so quickly. I'm really excited that my expectations on the popularity and number of views for this podcast have way exceeded my expectations. So I just want to thank the whole Who Dat Nation for welcoming my podcast so warmly. So also, you can follow us on Twitter at the Who Dat Dis and on Podomatic at the Who Dat Discussion. Also on YouTube, we are the Who Dat Discussion. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And with all that said, let's get to some Saints news. So, training camp is kind of like a low period. Training camp's coming in a couple weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is. And, there's not that much news, but there's a little Saints news, so I feel like we should get started on that. So first, NFL Network's David Carr predicts former Cowboys wide receiver Dez Bryant to sign with the Saints. So first, I just want to say about Dez. Dez was cut in mid-April by the Cowboys and still hasn't signed with anyone, which is, to me, a little puzzling. He posted nearly 70 receptions. He had 69, 838 yards, and 6 TDs in 2017. But, he's really been on decline since Romo quarterbacked the Cowboys. Really, since Dak came in, he hasn't been, that, force to be reckoned with where he put up, over 100 catches, over 10 touchdowns. Because he was really good 2014, 2013. And, ever since then, he's really slowly had a decline, when Dak was a QB and other backups for the Cowboys. For the Saints, this move would be a little puzzling considering, they have, 4 or 5 consistent, really good wide receivers that I'd be happy with having. We have Mike Thomas, obviously, who's a star, top 5 receiver. We have Ted Ginn, who last year showed that he's really good. He has a point in his career, he can still play, and he's going to be, a force to be reckoned with next year for teams as a second receiver, a speed receiver. He's definitely a great contrast to Michael Thomas, And then we have Cam Meredith, who's new, and I think will be a great slot receiver. And, if he's healthy, he's going to be a really good addition for this team and really fills up the hole. We have Tre'Quan Smith, who will stretch the field as, I think kind of like a deep to middle man for first downs. So I think he could be really important. And we have Brandon Coleman, who we got back from last year. And, he did, go a little below expectations. But, it is what it is. And he's kind of to me, a backup to Tre'Quan Smith. Or, they're going to battle for a spot there. But where would Dez fit in here? Now, we would have to cut a receiver to bring Dez on. I think that's the only reason we would do it. Yeah, if we cut a Brandon Coleman type player, he can fit right into that battle for a 2-spot or a 3-spot. And he could be, maybe we'll see what we got to get really good. So I think, it wouldn't be a bad move if we got him and we cut someone else and, give him a 1-year show-me deal like we gave to AP last year. But, to me, I wouldn't just cut a player if we don't feel like he's, bad. If we feel like he's just, we're cutting him for the sake of, bringing on Dez, I just don't think that's, the best option. But you look at it, Dez is definitely a premier talent in this league. You just see over the years, in 2014, he had 88 receptions for, 1,300 yards, 16 TDs, 2013, 93 receptions, 1,200 yards, 13 TDs. So he was a really, he had over 10 TDs 3 times in a row from 2012 to 2014. And then once, in 2015 when Romo got hurt and, he wasn't there. He wasn't up to the, ledger. So maybe kind of like Romo made him. But, maybe Brees could make him that again, if he played. So I think he's definitely something. I would look into signing him, seeing what one of the guys left. And if he has nothing left, we could always just cut him. So I think, we can do that. And I think that would be an interesting move, but I think it could be a pretty good one. And, for him, he's had some character issues, but we don't want him, breaking up this locker room and dividing it, so maybe it's the best just to leave it be. But I wouldn't be mad if they took a flyer on him, see what he's got. So, On to our next set of news, and really all the the next set is just a confirmation because we talked about it in depth last week. So Jameis Winston, is confirmed he gets suspended for 3 games, which means he'll miss the first one against the Saints in the Dome. So I think we talked about this last week. This really locks up, hopefully, a good start to the season and hopefully get a game 1 win. But, no win, is given to you, but we still have to work hard for it. But I really think we can get it in that way. And then just some fun news. Sean Payton lost a golfing bet to Doug Peterson, the Philadelphia head coach. And now the Eagles are wearing their home green uniforms in the Dome when we play them. So I believe that's like week 13, week 12. It's like around there. So, to me, I think, I don't think it really matters. I like both Saints uniforms, and I really think our Color Rush are fire. They're really good uniforms. And I really enjoy when they wear those. I also like when we wear them for like the 50th anniversary, like the throwbacks. I really like how they kind of like made them new. I really like that style. So, if hopefully maybe they'll wear the Color Rush for that, the white Color Rush instead of at home, instead of having, just having the white away uniforms. I like the white away too. I really think our uniforms are solid. But anyways, that's really all the Saints news this week. Not really that much. So we're going to have 2 top 5s this week, and we're going to start with the top 5, the best wins from 2017. This was suggested by Saints fans since '83, and we had 12 wins. So I went through our 12 wins, and I looked at the stats, watched the highlights, and I picked out the 5 best and really the turning points of the season where I can the most important wins, like blowouts, stuff like that. So first, we're gonna start with number 5 is week 4. So this was at Miami in London. So we won 20-0 that game. It was the first and only shutout for the Saints in 2017. The play of the day is when Crawley picks off Jay Cutler in the first quarter in the end zone. So to me, this is like the big turning point of the game. To me, this is really when we started to put the hammer down on the Dolphins, play great defense. Play, and then, that really led to, good offensive plays. The player of the game is Alvin Kamara, which is really his breakout game, his first great game. And he had 10 receptions for 71 yards, a touchdown. He also had 5 rushes for 25 yards. So, he was a force in that game. And just statistical leaders, obviously Breeze led the passing, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Ingram led the rushing with 45 yards on 14 carries. Mike Thomas led the receiving with 89 receiving yards on 8 catches. He also added a TD. P.J. Williams had 6 tackles that game. And Cam Jordan, A.J. Klein, Raphael Bush, and David Onyemata all had 1 sack. And on to the scores. We scored by Will Lutz field goal, Breeze to Mike Thomas, another Lutz field goal, and Breeze to Kamara. So, to me, this is a very important win to get in London. Winning, this could have easily been a trap game, because we're coming off the big win against the Panthers, first win of the season. Now we're traveling to London the week after. The Dolphins had a bye the week before. So, it's 2 weeks before. So, they're still rested. And to me, this is really, we could have easily lost this game. When we came in, we said, we're going to win, we're going to turn the season around, we're going to be resilient, and we're going to get back to 500. And they did all that going into the bye week, too. 2-2 before the bye, I said would have been fine. I mean, starting 0-2 is hard, and, those next 2 wins were huge, and they're big turning points. Those are turning points of the season, those next 2, because then we went on the 8-game winning streak. And then, to me, this really solidified that this team can play. We can slug out wins. The defense played amazing. Offense just played off the defense. And we got the win. So, on to the 4th best win of 2017. This was week 3, so only a week before the Miami game. And this is at Carolina and a 24-13 victory. So, this is the first win for the Saints and really a turning point after those first 2 games where, our defense got torched. Our defense played much better this game, had 3 picks, a lot of sacks. So, we'll just look for the statistical leaders first. So, Breeze had a 220 passing yards with 3 TDs, no interceptions. Ingram had 56 yards on 14 carries. He was the rushing leader. Mike Thomas had 87 receiving yards, 1 TD, and that was on 7 catches. Crawley had 8 tackles. He was the tackling leader. We had Cam Jordan, Alex Okafor, Kaholi Kikaha, Trey Hendrickson, all with 1 sack. They led the way. And Vaccaro, Marcus Williams, and P.J. Williams all have 1 pick. So the play of the game, Marcus Williams, one-handed interception off Cam Newton. So to me, this was, amazing play. You just look at it, one-handed play while going to the ground. He kept it. That was just amazing play, amazing ball skills, and it just shows how good, Marcus Williams is and what he's going to be. And, and that really turned the game. It was still a one-possession game at that point, and after that, we scored. And it was just like, we're going to win this. We're going to blow them out. And, we really felt like the defense really bounced back. It was an upset. Carolina had a 74% chance of winning coming into the game. And, it's a very good job to the Saints to avenge the first 2 losses, and pick up a win here. You beat a great division opponent. We ended up beating 3 times. Offense, they really got on track here, and they really got into a rhythm. And defense, they got much improved after getting torched the first 2 weeks by Sam Bradford and Tom Brady. So, on to our third game, best game of 2017, and it's going to be versus the Falcons in the Dome to clinch the first playoff berth since 2013. So, this game clinched the Saints playoffs, as I said. It showed that they can grind out wins versus very hard opponents. The Falcons were a great team. They got to the divisional round. It showed steps that the defense have took through the year, in my opinion. The contrast from week 1 to week 16. You just see that we were more hostile, more physical. Played off the crowd, and we had much better tackles. We had some hard tackles that we made, and we wouldn't have made it in week 1. So the play in the game was Marshawn Lattimore's butt pick of Matt Ryan, and the player of the game is also Marshawn Lattimore. He had a pick, 5 tackles, and he had the turning point interception of the game, which really made us get up by a couple scores. And then, he fought with Julio Jones, really the first 2 games, the one on Thursday night too. And he really, he contained him most of the night, And, he was great, and he showed that, he's elite, cornerback. So statistical leaders, Breeze had 240 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Mark Ingram had 44 yards on 13 carries. Ted Ginn had 4 catches, 76 yards, and a TD. Craig Robertson had 10 tackles, Cam Jordan with 2 sacks, and Lattimore with the pick. So I think, this really shows that, it was like, we're going to the playoffs, we're going in strong, and we're ready to win playoff games. So, on to me, like the last 2, I was really going back and forth on, it was the game against the Redskins and our playoff win. So I'm just going to call it 1A and 1, because to me, these really go back and forth. So 1A is going to be, versus the Redskins, a 34-31 victory in OT to extend our winning streak to 8 at that point. So to me, the play of the game was Brees to Kamara, 18-yard TD pass to bring the Saints within a 2-point conversion. Kamara ran in a 2-point conversion to tie the game up. So, that was obviously a huge, huge play. To come back from 15 points with under 6 minutes to play, it just shows that the resiliency of this team, and that, we can come back from anything. We can win any type of game. It showed this team was for real. It shows that they knew how to win shootouts. They knew how to grind out wins. They can win any game. It was a masterpiece of a victory. So the player of the game is Drew Brees. He was 29-41, 385 yards, 2 TDs, 1 pick, and that was at the very beginning of the game. But, he led the comeback. He was perfect, when they were down 15. Since that, they were down 15. It was the 10th largest comeback in Saints history, and then the largest with under 6 remaining, with only 6 minutes. So, it just, really showed this team's resiliency and that they were real. They were for real. So the Saints leaders, we said Brees already. He was passing. Ingram had 134 yards on 11 carries and 1 TD. Coby Fleener was the receiving leader with 91 yards on 5 catches. Von Bell had 13 tackles. Cam Jordan also had 1 sack. So, I think it just really showed that this team, could win. And it was just a huge victory for this team. So, on to the number 1 is going to be versus Carolina in the Dome. And the wild card win that day. It was a 31-26 victory with, put us 3-0 versus the Panthers. It was the only playoff win of the season, obviously. So the play of the game, Brees to Ginn for 80-yard TD pass really set the tone. We really never looked back from there. We never let the lead from there. We led the whole game. The runner-up was obviously Von Bell's clinching sack to clinch the game. Player of the game, Drew Brees. They really dared him to throw the ball today, and he put on a show. And we led a clinic, the whole game to the team's victory. And, runner-up to me would be the Saints wide receivers, Michael Thomas and Ted Ginn, who both have over 100 yards. They had a lot of catches. Ted Ginn scored the TD, so... to me, that was a really, the whole passing attack was great. Brees was 23 of 33 for 376 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. And that pick was, it was like the 4th down play where he just threw it up for grabs because it was like a punt anyways. So to me, I don't even count the pick. And then stats, we obviously said Brees' stats. Kamara, he was the rushing leader with only 23 yards, but he had a TD. And then Mike Thomas, he had 131 yards on 8 catches. Von Bell led the way with 9 tackles. Bell, Jordan, Tyler Davidson, and Jonathan Freeney all had 1 sack. So, it was obviously a huge win for the Saints to hang on. We hanged on very end, 5 points. They got into the red zone, actually, but we got them out, and we ended up winning. They dared Drew to throw the ball, and he led the way to the Saints' victory. The Saints' passing attack was great with 2 wide receivers over 100 yards, Mike Thomas and Ted Ginn. And, the defense was good enough to get the win. They had 4 sacks on Cam, and they really limited Cam to field goals all day. To me, they just saw the tenacity of this team. And, to me, this win really showed that we can go far in the playoffs. Obviously, it didn't turn out the way we wanted to in Minnesota, but, really found a way, to win this game and, to play Minnesota. So, now we're going to go on, to our next top 5. This is actually going to be a worst 5, and it's going to be the worst 5 Saints DBs, and this is since I've been a fan, it's 2004, and this was suggested by Cajun Saints on Twitter. So let's get into it. So first I'm going to start with some honorable mentions. So first is to Bucky Jones, and he was a safety. He played from 2003 to 2004. He was he never wrapped up on tackles. He always went for the big hits, and he always whiffed. He had no instincts, no ball skills. And, he only played for 2 years. That's why he's really not in the top 5. He earned the nickname to Sucky Jones from Saints fans. His stats, he had 2 picks in those 2 years. No forced fumbles, no sacks. So, he was not liked by Saints fans. He really never had the intangibles to be a good safety. And also another safety on this honorable mentions would be Jarius Byrd. He signed a 6-year contract with the Saints back in 2014. He was supposed to be, our missing piece to the defense. Obviously he wasn't. He had a really, tough time as a Saint. He got injured a lot. He was never, really fully in, to our defense, invested. And as he got older and as he started playing more, he was worse. And, he couldn't get to the spots. He was, missing tackles, stuff like that. And, he really made our, Saints defense worse for the wear and put us in cap, hell. Because, we gave him so much guaranteed money. He got 6 years, $56 million, and then got, 30 of it guaranteed, something like that. And it was an, insane amount of money we gave up, and it obviously wasn't worth it. Big strikeout on free agency. We cut him after 3 years. He's not even here for, obviously, the next 3. That's how bad, we thought he was, and he wasn't worth it. So, but he wasn't, to me, he wasn't the worst. He had some skills. He had some good games with the Saints, so he wasn't really hit that top 5 because we had so many bad DBs. We've had so many bad ones. That's why it's so hard to pick between. So I really hope I came up with the best top 5. So start off with number 5, Josh Bullock, safety. He went from 2005 to 2008. So his stats, he had 6 picks in those 4 years, 1 sack, and 4 forced fumbles. So, he never wrapped up. He always went for the big hits, just like to Bucky Jones. He had no instincts, no ball skills, and he's on the team for 4 years. That's why him and Bucky are very equal, but he was on the team for 4 years, so that's why really showed that he was going to be on this list. He was picked up by Jim Haslett, to replace the Bucky Jones, and they were the same thing. They were just big guys that were speedy, but they had no instincts, they had no ball skills, so they really couldn't play the game. But, just because they had a couple of physical intangibles, they were picked and started, and they got beat a lot, and that's why, our defense, wasn't really up to snuff. He was the reason in 2007, 2008, while we had a bad defense and why we failed to win many games. So, on to number 4, would be Devontae Harris, 2016 to present. He's still in the practice squad, so I'll keep him on the team. He's 0 picks as a Saint, 0 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, 25 tackles in 2 years. He got burned so much. Every game he started in 2017, we lost 0-3. Those games were the first 2 games against the Vikings and Patriots, and then he also started the Rams game where he got burnt by Cooper Kupp so much. And and you just see busted plays he give up. He misses assignments, and you see that. And he's just he obviously just wasn't a successful cornerback for us. Ken Crawley replaced him, and our defense got so much better just by one player. So really he was kind of like the downfall of our defense for the last 2 years. I'm not going to blame it all on one player, but he was not good. Got beat in so many plays. And Julio burned him one game in 2016, and even this year Brandon Cooks got him. Adam Thielen got him. So, you just see that, he's definitely not up to snuff. He's not, further down this list in the top 3 because, he was a, UDFA, and he was really just supposed to be a fill-in that really got thrown into the fire. So, on to number 3, it's Jason David, cornerback 2007 to 2008. The stats aren't that bad. You look at it and you're like, okay, it's not that bad. He had 8 picks. He did have no sacks, but he had 2 forced fumbles. But he was so bad, because teams would just target him time after time after time for again, and blind squirrel gets a nut. So he bited on every play. Bit on every play, and he would obviously make a few good plays, but he got burned so much game after game after game. He got fooled on big plays way too easy, play actions. And no Saints fans liked him at all. He gambled so much that he was going to get beat a lot. And he was the reason, 2007, 2008. You look at 2006, when he wasn't here, we were really good. 2009, when he left, we made the Super Bowl. So obviously, he was a problem here. I'll give him one, positive to his game is that, in 2007, he had a pick and he did a really good Carlton dance. I'll never forget that. It was a good moment for him. But besides that, he was not a good player for this team. So, number 2 is Stanley Jean-Baptiste, cornerback 2014. So he's a second rounder that got cut only after 1 season. The worst draft pick in Saints history. He was really, really bad. His stats, he only played 4 games and he had no stats. No tackles, no sacks, no forced fumbles, no interceptions in 4 games. He was supposed to be like Richard Sherman. That's what they compared him to, his size. That's all he had. He had no, he was not a ball hawker. He was slow. He didn't know the game. He didn't know his assignments. He didn't know where to go. He gave up busted coverages in those 4 games. As I said, he was the worst player in Saints history. Let's look at his scouting profile, because that's really what we have on him. He only played 1 other game then for Baltimore last year, but he hasn't played for a long time. If you look at his weaknesses, they said that he's a lot of tweener traits. He could struggle to grasp, and execute complex assignments. He's a 24-year-old rookie, so he was a little older, so you would think that he would know more, but he didn't. He picks and chooses when to be physical, so he didn't have, he wasn't always physical like Richard Sherman is. He wasn't a good athlete, he was slow, so you just see that he wasn't, a good player, and, he was a complete bust for the Saints, and, that's going to put you high up on this list, no matter what. So, on to our final, number 1 worst DB in, the recent times for the Saints, and that is Brandon Browner, 2015 cornerback. So, he was definitely up there for one of the worst free agent signings in Saints history. We signed him for 3 years, and $18 million, $15 million of that was guaranteed. And, man, he was awful. He had 24 penalties. He only had 1 pick. 24 penalties in 1 season. That's the most ever. So, he would, every time someone got past him, he would just hold and foul. And, that would cause flags, holding penalties. Pass interferences, whenever someone got by him, he would just flag him. It's just, to me, it's just hilarious. He missed spots. He would always get beat. He was slow as a Saint. He wasn't that good. He was supposed to be great in the locker room. Wasn't even that good in the locker room. So, you see, and he was just, really bad. And, they cut him after 1 season. He helped to put the Saints in, cap hell. So, he did, no favors as a Saint. And, he was, people call him a top 3 worst Saints ever. To me, he's the number 1, definitely worst DB. He was a huge letdown. He won a Super Bowl with the, Seahawks won a Super Bowl with the Patriots. So he had 2 Super Bowl rings. So we thought he would at least give leadership. Didn't even give that, And, that's the bottom line with him. So, now on to our next segment. It's going to be some Who Dat Nation Saints questions. So, our first question, which was asked by Saints fan 134123. So, out of the players from the 2017 draft, who is the player who will progress the most from year 1 to year 2? So, my answer, I'm going to say it's Marcus Williams. To me, he's not the best player. Kamara and Lattimore both better, but he's going to progress the most. I think, with the Minnesota Miracle, it's going to really fuel him to become, not only a better player, just a great player. He seems determined, to avenge his mistake and become one of the top safeties in the league. His workouts are insane. You see what he does, and, it looks like he's, moving more fluid in the secondary. He's going to hit harder. And his 2017 stats were very, very good. He had, 5 interceptions, 86 tackles. He's good, and he's only going to get better. You just look, he's going to definitely progress, become better, have better instincts. He's like a center fielder out there for us. I could see him having like a 10-pick season, like a Darren Sharper season 2009. That's how good I think he's going to be. You just see that he's going to avenge, the mistake he made, and he's going to become better because of it. And, I could see him going, into that Vikings game. I think we play him like week 8 and, getting like 3 picks. And the reason we win the game, he's that type of person, so I think he's ready to, make a big impact and, help us go to the playoffs again and hopefully win a Super Bowl. So now on to our second question asked by Saints fans. So it was asked by Saints fans since '83, who also asked the top 5 on the best games of 2017. So I just want to say thank you for asking 2 really good topics. So he also asked like another game type question. So he said, what do you think will be the hardest game of 2018? So my answer is back to Minnesota, in my opinion. Week 8, we play them on Sunday Night Football. It's an away game in Minnesota at one of the hardest places to play. They were 7-1 last year. We lost twice there last season. And we got to try to avenge, the Minnesota Miracle and fight our demons. And that could be really tough for your team. To me, we can win this game. To me, we have a 50-50 shot at winning this game still. We're going to have to score early, get turnovers, grind out a victory. To me, if we score versus that defense, we're going to win. Their offense, they have Kirk Cousins, but, they're not, a very high-powered offense, rather. We could shut them down. It's going to be a hard task, but I think they can get it done. I think it's very possible we're going to win. And Mark Williams, like I said, has a big game and, and win. But, here's the thing is, a lot of our games in 2018, we have a lot of hard games, but they're all at home. So I feel like, the dome field advantage will help us, get over the hump and win those games. And then, the usually our games on the road are a little easier, and hopefully we'll be able to win those games. So I think even though our schedule is hard, I feel like it's well placed for us to really become successful. You just look at it, to me, I just feel like, I think we could beat Minnesota, I really do, but to me, that's just the hardest game, factoring it's away, a really good team. I could see the Eagles, but that's at home, so I really feel like, if I was going to be more confident, definitely more confident at home than, away game versus Minnesota. So to me, this can really give us trouble. They gave us trouble last year, obviously. Their defense fooled us for, a game and a half, kind of. And, obviously the last half, Brees really got it going, had a vintage Brees game. It's obviously overlooked by the Minnesota Miracle, but he was just outstanding. Mike Thomas, to me, he's, he played amazing that game against Xavier Rhodes. He really broke open those no roads open, roads closed. So he was great in that game. And, I think it just shows that, we are going to be, forced to be reckoned with. To me, this is the hardest game because, I feel like we have a chance to win it. And, many Saints fans are going to think we are going to win it because, we almost won the game in Minnesota last year. But, they got better to me, we got better. So I feel like it's going to be a very back-and-forth game. I hope we can get it done for the victory. So with that, I just want to think it's time to wrap up this podcast. First, I just wanted to say thank you to Saints fan 134123 and Saints fan since 83 for asking the questions. And I just want to thank Saints fans since 83 and Cajun Saints for suggesting the top 5s this week. And, to me, they're both great topics. I think, it was really nice to go back into the little Saints history and, check out the worst DBs. And it was also, great to go back to last year, rewatch, our wins, and, really bring a big smile to my face to watch all the wins and watch all our players progress and play, through those 12 wins. So, with that, I just want to say, if you enjoy this podcast, please follow us on Twitter at the Who Dat Dis, and on Podomatic at the Who Dat Discussion, and on YouTube, subscribe, like, and click that notification icon. On YouTube, we are the Who Dat Discussion. So, if you want to ask a question, to be answered on the show, or suggest a top 5 or position breakdown, please tweet us at the Who Dat Dis. You can leave a comment on our videos on YouTube or Podomatic, or you can email us at thewhodhatdis@gmail.com. So, lastly, I just want to thank everyone who has watched our first 3 videos. I just can't believe how much this podcast has grown in just 3 episodes. It's been really a dream come true for me, to make this podcast and really have it, grow like this. I love being able to talk and interact, with the best fans in the NFL, the Who Dat Nation. I truly, believe that, we are going to be a really good team this year with the best fans. We're going to show up. This fan base is, so great, and I'm blessed to be a part of it, and blessed to be a Saints fan. And I just can't wait for training camp, the preseason, and then the season, the regular season to start. And on that note, I just wanted to say happy 4th of July again. Finally into July, training camp starting this month, and I'll see you next week. Who Dat?